Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Wisdom in Christ podcast. Today I am here with Core, also known as Black Raven Meditations, and I'm very excited to do a podcast with her today and talk about who knows all what we're going to talk about, probably some spiritual stuff, obviously meditation, of course. And I definitely want to ask you about your story with your YouTube channel, what inspired you. I know you told me a little bit about it in conversations that we've had together. But yeah, so first I wanted to kind of tell people how we personally stumbled upon each other and how we met. So there's this kind of crazy little thing that happened where I was on a YouTube live chat and I was talking about books on a YouTube live chat, and I start talking about this book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And then I talk about this other book called, or no, Court brings up this book called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And I had read that book. And so we started talking in the YouTube chat box a little bit. And at first, I'm not going to lie, of course, I thought that you were a guy because, I'm on a Freemason live chat box on YouTube, so the probability of you being a girl is like point negative 1,000,000%. So like almost zero, right? That it was a girl. And so, anyways, next thing I know, we're emailing back and forth, and I'm like, she is like the coolest person ever. Soon find out that she's a girl and that she has all this awesome knowledge on meditation and a YouTube channel, and she's read a bunch of books, and I'm like, holy cow, Cora is like super cool. And so then we got talking and basically started sharing books, did some Zoom calls together, or I guess Google Meets calls, and now we are doing a podcast here together today. So how crazy is that? How that
A
all
wonderful,
happened?
it's a wonderful nutshell too. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds that you had also read As a Man Thinketh and that I had also read The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn, and then somehow on this YouTube chat box where there's like three people or like five people, we start talking, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
we
it's
must have
wonderful.
supposed to have done this podcast today. There's a reason
Pure
for it.
magic.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
reason. That's the position I'm going to take on this.
I
So,
like it. Yes.
yep. So, what got you into your YouTube channel, Core, and how did you first get inspired to start making videos about meditation? Because you have a great YouTube channel, a lot of awesome videos, which, by the way, make sure you guys stay clear till the very end of this podcast because we're going to drop links for Core's stuff in there's links in the video description and on the podcast description on Apple Podcast as well. So make sure you guys stay till the end and make sure you guys follow Core on all of her platforms. So what got you in to doing YouTube and doing videos about meditation?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and watching your work. It's really interesting how metaphysics feeds into the financial world, and I really enjoy the work that you do. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. So the YouTube channel itself, it was kind of created out of a boredom almost. So the monotony of business became kind of monotonous, right? And I was really looking for an outlet to create. I was looking for a way to assist people that I was working with supplement information in a way that it wasn't too redundant or it didn't give everything away too much. And I just started putting stuff up on YouTube, and it just has kind of grown since then. I don't try to do much of anything on there. And also, I find it's become a beautiful platform for kind of just opening discussions for different ways of living and how people navigate just really regular things in really extraordinary ways that help life flow with a little more grace and ease. So that's just kind of been a um, something I didn't really expect to happen from it, but it definitely has.
So, okay, first of all, I love your videos, by the way. Every time I watch one, I get like a little piece of wisdom or knowledge where I'm like, oh, I should start telling people to tell me more about stuff or to ask better open-ended questions because you mentioned that in one of your videos, and I was like, that is so good to do. And people forget to do that, let other people ask questions that lets the other people share personal insights about themselves, and then you get to learn a lot by doing that. And so I've learned, I haven't watched like 50 videos or anything, but from the videos I've watched, I've learned stuff and I've really enjoyed it. So great work on your videos, by the way. So what, like you say out of boredom, but like, was there any other inspirations, any other people you watch, like anybody that pushed you? Like, what's the story behind like actually pulling the trigger on creating the channel?
So pulling the so yeah, I had just kind of made Taoist meditation stuff and just kind of put up just a really generic meditation style because I wanted to add something, right? I just wanted to get started. And then my dear friend Dalibor, he talked with me and I was like, this I really want to create something like this. And he's like, yeah, I've been inspired with this. And we took a lot of time together and really developed something that felt like a safe space for people, no matter what stage they were at, to be able to just share their story in an open forum. And that felt really, really important for the channel, even though I wasn't for sure what the channel was going to be. And it was really beautiful having his support because sometimes, as you know, being a creator, sometimes the money or the views can become like the focus. And, for me, it was that safe space, so it was really beautiful having someone who supported that vision and worked with that vision and how we could make it still palatable for people, that they wanted to stick around, right? That it wasn't uh, um, too much in any one direction. And like you said, that people could come and get nuggets. You could just throw it on at 8 minutes and just watch it for a little bit and get something out of it, so because people are busy, right? So yeah, I felt really grateful that Delabora helped really set the template for what it is today and allow this kind of, once again, that unintentional variety of people for people.
So what kind of a role did he play as well? Was there like some fears that you had when creating the channel? Like, did you doubt yourself, second guess whether it was like even worth your time? Like, what were some of the feelings you were having, and and maybe what help did he offer with that as well?
So a big part of what he helped was, in putting our own, it's one thing to put someone else's work out there, right? To just speak someone else's work, but when it's work we've worked on and it's personal, it's the whole like, are these people going to burn me at the stake? Are they going to put me on a platform? Are they going to put me on a pedestal, which seems almost worse at times, right? Because there's just all these dynamics that go with those things. So yeah, there was a lot of doubt and there was a lot of navigation on my part because I wanted, no matter what I made, I wanted to make sure it was being offered in a way that was creating what I was attempting to create. And he really helped me navigate it in a less emotional way. And he was very patient with me when I would get emotional about it and say, basically at the end of the day, we can't control how people take what we put out, right? We put it out, we see what it creates, we take it back in, we go 3 degrees, we try it again, and we just keep doing that process till it creates what we're, trying to put out there. And I thought that was really great advice, is, working in this work and working as a creator as well, because it can get overwhelming, I think, as you know. Did that
Yeah,
answer
there's
your
def
question?
yeah, it does. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of persistence that sometimes people underestimate how much persistence it takes to create content for people, but it's rewarding enough and spiritually fulfilling enough that it kind of balances out, but there's definitely a lot that goes into it. And I think every YouTuber at the beginning of their journey experienced doubt and questioned themselves and wondered, is this going to really do any good or is this going to be helpful for people and there's just a lot of different questions you can have, but I think most people have something to offer the world, and whether that's through YouTube or books or both or whatever they have, I think most people have something to offer the world. And so I guess like what would you say to people that are wondering if they should start a YouTube channel or maybe start sharing their art or their literature that they're writing? Like what would you say to those people to kind of help inspire them to overcome that natural side of themselves?
Just do it. Just get out there and get started. Just put one foot in front of the other every day, right? Even if that one step is just getting up with the intention, I'm going to do it today. Even if you don't actually make it there, that's okay. But just keep going forward. Don't let your own self-limiting beliefs stand in the way of everything that you're destined to be here for, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. That is
yeah.
so true. It like if you take one step forward, then your other foot just kind of already starts going. So
Yes. And if you love something enough to take that step in the first place, like people will feel that. And you and I have talked about this before too, right? It's one thing to say words, but it's another thing when you have felt what those words mean and you can present it to people and they feel that in you. So if you're doing something you love and you can present it in a way that offers people that space to go somewhere they may not go on their own, that's a really special thing to do and to offer to the world.
yep, yes it is. So what about meditation? You mentioned you'd been meditating for quite a while, haven't you? Like it's something you incorporated at a fairly early point in your life. So like what's been your experience implementing meditation? What kind of cued you into it? And and what does that story look like for you?
There's a lot of questions in there, really. So we're going to kind of take it from the past 7 years, which is where I've been working pretty heavily in my own process, as well as offering it back out to people, if that's okay. So I tell people often meditation didn't just change my life, it changed the game I was playing. And it kind of goes back to the book with Florence Scovel Shinn, right? The Game of Life and How to Play It. There's always, meditation helped me realize that there's always an underlying game, right? There's a script, right? There's this happening of life that's constantly going on in the background, and that I can choose to be consumed by it, or I could just choose to be aware of it. And whenever I first started this practice, I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like, sure, like you can just not be in things. Um, so and it's kind of funny because now when people say it, I have to giggle because I get that. But the reality is, with each intentional moment from moment to moment that I've taken with meditation and I've utilized to deepen my own meditative practice, the easier life just gets. Like it becomes less trying and things just like happen. And I know a lot of people who do meditation practices, they experience this too. It's like you just can walk your life and there's not this urge to do all these things because we walk in a place that is connected and feels peaceful. And because of that, life just changes around us. That's a question. Are you going to say something? Please.
No, no.
Okay. I saw your mouth. And you and I have talked about this as well with meditation, is not only did it bring me to a place that was I was able to regulate my physical body and my mind, but it really helped me deepen my relationship with God and my understanding with the purpose here and my understanding with how that looks from day to day, and it went from a place of, I was in therapy for 20 years when I was growing up, so it went from this very externalized validation and this very external, like I need this from someone to fix or to fill to, oh, I have this inside of me. Like I have that nugget of wisdom inside of me. And meditation really allowed me to not only acknowledge that, but to sit with it and to cultivate a relationship that trusted those nuggets and that was willing and able to polish them in a way that created forward momentum and change.
Yeah, I love that because it's so true. If you try to look for happiness outside of yourself and you know, and you're just looking and looking and looking, and it's like you might experience like moments of happiness and joy and those kinds of things, but until you really discover that it's inside of you where that fountain of joy and happiness and peace really lies, it's just an endless search, you know? You're just looking for the fleeting you know, things of this life instead of that inner eternal rock that is unchanging and that you can attune yourself to and build your life upon that instead of the things that just fleet and fade away. So I love that so much. It's definitely definitely true. 100% true.
Yeah.
So what has it been like teaching other people this? Like is there resistance? Like are most people still like I cannot be out of this. This is my life. I have to have my suffering. Don't heal me. Like, what is it
So
like?
that what you just said, right? The same things I went through, right? Like the ego being like, no, my suffering is important. My family's more important. My this is more important. And we go through layers of it. And teaching it's really interesting because I teach more of a what I call a process of presence because even now is fleeting. So, I'm very much about self-regulation from moment to moment and walking in a mindful way. Um, and also when we work on deeper meditation stuff, but even on that superficial level, there's a lot of resistance. Most of the work that we do is in aftercare and support because the process while we're with people is generally, even though it's intense, it's quite easy for them because they have a facilitator supporting them emotionally, energetically, spiritually through the process. But then when they leave, those energies they're starting to come out of the playpen a little bit, right? And as people navigate that because they don't have a new way yet, they just have the old responses to these behaviors that they're now becoming aware of and they'd rather not do anymore. So a lot of our work is actually in the aftercare and the support part. We get a lot of, oh my gosh, this is going on, so it becomes about pointing out the pattern of what's going on and how can we do this differently now, and giving them, allowing them space to feel empowered in their own process.
Yep, yep. I could see how that is a big aspect of it. I think that, you get so used to those fleeting things and believing those to be the reality that when you start to try to hold on to the eternal things, then it's hard not to think that the other one is more real still. Like it takes time to like recognize which one is the one that is is real and which one is the one that is causing the suffering and that you're attached to, whether you realize it or not. And I think people do get attached to their suffering in a way. It becomes their identity. It becomes like a safe place for them. Sometimes people can get like a lot of attention for it, whether they're aware of that or not. And so sometimes people can get attached to that suffering and not want to change. But I think most people, if they get exposed to that feeling of what it's like to be free from it and have that awareness of seeing beyond it, I think most people will choose the good thing. Most people want to choose the thing that is real and substantial instead of the thing that is just like fleeting and fake, you know. So, but it definitely takes time. So yeah, that's really cool. So how like you've been teaching it for a while now? Like how long have you been teaching meditation?
So Black Raven meditation has been what it is for 4 years now. It has evolved tremendously. It went from teaching like 12-step meditation programs mainly to now we do uh, things with recovery programs and animals and hospice work and individuals. So it's really kind of spanned out into people's needs. If we don't really focus on just any one thing, we go in, we assess, and we offer. This is what we have to offer, and it's received or it's declined, and that's just kind of how we do things now.
Okay. So you've been doing it for quite a while then. It sounds like you've been teaching people for quite a while. So what's your experience as somebody that practices meditation and you've seen the benefits of meditation and what it can have as effects on yourself and the people around you. But when you're actually practicing meditation, there's that whole don't seek the seek, like don't seek, but seek. So like how do you feel about that? Like the whole concept of non-doing? Because when you sit down to meditate, people hear all these benefits of meditation and they sit down. But if they've got this idea in their head that they're going to have some profound magical experience and have a vision or like instantly be healed, then, they might be disappointed. So, what advice do you have for people that want to start meditation that's a realistic expectation and kind of a mindset to go into it with?
Okay. Trying to get all the questions here. So, on a realistic level, what you can expect is about 1 second response time per year practiced of meditation. Um, so that might not seem like a lot. And also think about all the things that happen in 1 second, how lives are changed every day in a matter of 1 second, right? We trip, we yell, we pull the trigger, a baby is born, right? All these things happen literally in a second. So it will offer longer response time for decisive decisions, right? The second thing is that awareness of choice. A huge part of meditation is realizing, like knowing that I have a choice to choose my state of mind at any moment. I have the choice to choose where my attention's going at every moment. So it's very much about the empowerment. Um, so for people starting, I always tell people start with 2 minutes. If you've never done meditation before, always start with 2 minutes. Just start the practice because what you see as you get into meditation, a very realistic part of meditation, if you meditate consistently, is you'll start to notice your body might start talking back with you. Your mind might start saying things, and you're like, oh. And these things can be very kind of disruptive to us. So if we start in small spurts and we start to just observe as those things start to come up, and as you were alluding to earlier, and you said, well, you're supposed to like do it but not do it. So the whole point of, and that is a very like, okay, paradox, you know. So the whole point of that is to do things without the intention of getting something, right? So like I'm going to sit down. I'm not sitting down so that I can get closer to God. I'm sitting down because I'm going to take this time to nurture my body and to nurture the temple and to nurture this time and just be. Right. So it's about you can do the same things you always do, but it's about just switching that perspective so that we're not possessing what's going on, right? We will see sometimes when people get into meditation and stronger studies, they'll start like divorcing their spouses and stuff like this because they're like, it's non-attachment. That's not what that means. Do not give all your stuff to anyone, people. Like, keep all of your things. Use your fancy soap. It's okay, right? It's about it's about
Don't
being
sell your
open.
Ferrari.
Don't sell your Ferrari. Just let it be for now. Like, don't make any brash decisions. It's about being okay with if I lose that today, right? If I come home today and all of this is burnt to the ground, that I'm still going to be okay. And to know that about thyself. That's what it means to be non-attached to it. So no matter if I'm in rags or riches, that I'm okay. That's what non-attachment is. And when we go into meditation, some of the newbie things that you were talking about, a lot of times we'll see people, they'll get very irritated and they'll want to go into meditation. Uh, it's not typically taught that we do that. So we generally, when we go into meditation, we want to make sure that we're going in of steady heart, steady mind. If we need to do a practice before we do our practice, to do that. If it's just not the day, be honest with ourselves and just say it's just not the day right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not the moment right now, because that's part of learning to meditate too, is that honest exchange we have with ourselves. This is my observation about what's going on in here. This is my honest feedback to that. And I'm going to take both of those into account and I'm going to make a decision that works for this situation. And I'm going to be okay with it. Right. Because, what's perfect to you may not be perfect to me,
Right.
you know?
I
So
I
we
think
get, once again, we get to choose those.
right. Yeah, I think that when we make a decision, sometimes you have to there's a natural human tendency for a lot of people if they make a decision to try to overthink that decision. But I think meditation for me has helped me make decisions and just stick to it and trust it and just be okay with it. Because even if you make the wrong decision, indecision is almost worse than making a wrong choice. Like a lot of times, like being all stuck in your head about it and just
Yes.
so like if you can be in that state of just trusting that your decisions are going to work out and everything's going to work out and just to make decisions and try to make the best ones but not to be second guessing yourself, then you're going to be a lot more effective person in your life. You're going to be a lot better at the things that you do. And there's a lot to what you said, and I love what you're talking about there. Especially what you said earlier too about that 1 second and how it doesn't sound like a lot, but think of the compounding interest, if we want to get financial on us today here. Think of the compounding interest of that 1 second a day or a year over your life. And I'm sure that maybe as you get better at meditation, it's more than just a single second too. Like I'm sure like that year, 1 second per year, probably people that are really advanced meditators probably experience exponential growth as a result of their meditation, right? So, okay, cool. So, So what are some of the biggest struggles that you see people have when they try to incorporate daily meditation into their lives?
The sense of being disoriented, because as things start moving a little more, like our perspective, right? It just, our vision opens up a little more. So people will have dreams. That seems to be a difficult one, because they become more vivid, or they might have seemingly have like a more negative undertone to them, because once again, meditation opens up a lot of that repressed and suppressed energy that's in the physical body.
So it's kind of like stirring up if there's like a cup and there's a little bit of mud in the bottom and you're stirring up the cup and all the mud starts to come to the top, but then you can kind of, you know, filter it out after that because it's starting to move a little bit.
It's exactly like that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the dreams part, I don't think most people are in connection, have a very strong connection to their dreams, and it can kind of be overwhelming for people when they start to experience those kinds of vivid dreams. How has that looked for you as you incorporated meditation?
On a personal basis.
Yeah, like your dreams, like what does that look like for you?
So for me, I utilize every dream I have as a template for what's going on in my life. So if I'm having a dream, I know that there's something that I a value in there that I need to implement in life. So I'll write down everything that I remember. I'll ask myself questions. I'll kind of force myself to broaden my own view within the dream. Does that make sense? And then I'll go in and I'll look up, metaphysical meaning of, or, etymology of, and look up these words and see what their origin story is. And I'll be like, okay, how does that reflect on what I'm going through right now? And I'll use it as a workbook almost.
Do you, okay, yeah. So what kind, like, I guess your dreams did get more vivid. Like, what was the experience like? What happened to your dreams themselves?
Oh, yes, yes. Mine picked up quite substantially. So I went through the very stereotypical sleep paralysis, like feeling like I was being held down, and then like things kind of jutting out at me, and then things that were like super colorful. So I went through a very stereotypical evolution, I would say, as far as the dreams went. They got very violent there for a while. Other times it was just these like off the wall, celestial stuff, and, just these really interesting collages of things that I had learned or heard that were just kind of like brought into my headspace that I had to navigate.
So again, kind of like the muddy water thing where a bunch of stuff is coming up and it's like, well, I thought meditation was supposed to heal me and make me feel better, but it is, but it's like, what's all this extra stuff that's happening too, you know? But
Yes,
imagine if
and
you
they don't,
never would have
and we're not,
confronted that,
yes, and that's the
you
beautiful
know?
thing about it is the clarity through the confrontation of it. And then when you go through it next time, you can be like, oh, I see now. Okay, we're just going through another level of this. Like, let's put on an extra seat belt, put on our helmet this time because we know better, right? And then we just go in because we know what's going on, and we know what we're there for now, which makes it almost easier.
Right. Okay, so cool. So yeah, the dream thing is definitely something I think is pretty universally experienced by most people that start
Yes.
meditating. Um, just because there is so much stuff in our consciousness, our subconscious that just was just waiting, you know?
Yeah. Nausea is another one. So, I'm not a medical professional. I don't hold any certificates in that way. And also, just as a meditator, we should always pick up our water because nausea is pretty common, and a lot of times it'll have to do with, the trauma that's, being released in that stomach area, that diaphragm area. um, pain as people sit, because most of us are used to sitting or slouching a certain way, right? Our body just kind of naturally falls. So as we come into a new posture, the body can become resistant to that and be like, yeah, no, I really like my way. So, breathing into the body and talking kindly to it. Sometimes it can be easy for us to be like, why do you always do this? Like, why can't you? So talk kindly to our bodies. If something hurts, more of I acknowledge you and what you need instead of, why does this always happen? Why why? So keep it positive to yourself.
So, how do you feel about people when they get into this process of like seeking enlightenment and how common it is for people to try to force their spiritual growth? Like they're in a bad spot, they want to get in a better spot, and they want results quickly. And so they kind of try to force it and they sit down and they're like, and they're like stiff as a rock, and they're like, their back is all up straight and everything. And it's like really forceful. So, what would you say to those people? Like what kind of a mindset change do they need to have to get the most out of this process of seeking light and wisdom and enlightenment through meditation?
Well, it's the best and worst advice I have. Stop trying. You know what I mean? And and that's really the most difficult thing for most of us is to stop trying, right? To be able to just sit in there and remind ourselves to be still, right? And to be okay with that. So yeah, because the more we try in this process, the more we stand in the way of what's really there. It's kind of like in some Coptic Christians literature, they say a man who's trying to be virtuous is a clear sign that they're not. And it kind of goes along with that same mentality, right? If we're trying to do something, then we are in essence doing the exact standing in the way of which we're trying, our claim
Yeah.
is trying to get us to, right? So yeah. And the remedy I feel for that is to do your best to not read anymore, to not, because if you're to a place where you're trying to get somewhere in meditation, it's probably because you've ingested a lot of knowledge and you want to use it and you want to have that experience, which is why you got all this knowledge in the first place. So just sit with the knowledge you have and just ask God, like with what I already have, show me what I can, what I need to know. And if you don't get an answer, that means you're not ready for it. Sit with it again tomorrow, right? And it's kind of like how we started this. It's easy to be excited when we're at the top of our game. But it's really when we're in the trenches that the character is built and the stamina and the resilience to be able to actually to get through things, and the spiritual process is the same. It's easy to get excited about the woohoo and talk about it and all these things, but it's really in those times that we're laying naked on the floor and feel like nothing, that's when our faith is built. And it's
Right.
important to remember that even in meditation.
I think that, a lot of people that do practice meditation can get a lot of initial growth and feel a lot of initial kind of like momentum built because of the practice. I don't think that happens for everybody, but I have witnessed a lot of people the first like month or so where they feel like this huge change. And I think it's just going to be just, like that for their whole lives. It's just going to just be just whoop all the way up, just all just good. It's just the most joyful, wonderful thing ever. And then when they have big things that come in their lives that test their faith, or they notice that their practice, it's harder to get into their meditations, They're like six
Mm.
months in and they're like, wait, I thought I was just going to get progressively better at this. And you are. You're building the more deeper inner resilience and strength that comes from having the dedication to continue in the practice. But sometimes it's going to feel harder and more difficult because you're working through a deeper level of yourself that you haven't fully overcome. You can have that first initial success and growth, but you really need to go deep to really get that lasting change that comes from meditation. And I think that's why a lot of people do it for like a month or two or a couple weeks, or they have a couple experiences with it that were cool in a class or whatever, but they don't do it every day for the rest of their lives, which is a very rare thing to have somebody that that is dedicated to meditation and continues for their whole lives. So, so what do you think about that? Is that would you agree with that? Like what are your thoughts on that?
For me, I can't stop, right? Like there won't, if I stop, I'll lose it, right? Because it like you, it's a muscle, right? It's an intent, it's like our faith, right? We have to pray multiple times a day. We don't just pray once a day. We pray multiple times a day. We don't just pray once a month, right? Like it's a multiple time a day. And meditation is the same thing. If we let that connection go, because it's such a mindful act, or it's such a mindful action within our day to day, if we let that go, we start taking the wider path because it's just the path of least resistance, and that's just kind of how natural law works. And so that's my theory on it. There'll never be a day that I don't do it because when there are even when 12 hours go by, like if I forget to do it in the morning because I'm really busy that morning and have other things to do, by 2 o'clock, I'm like, I have to stop. Like I have to make an intentional stop and do it because I feel it in my body, like physically, emotionally, like spiritually. Like I feel it in my body. So for me, it's a non-negotiable. But for other people, they're like you said, they're happy going to things and doing it once a month, and it's if that works for people, I have no judgment against that either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think, people have different amounts of meditation that they want to apply into their life. So, and I think that some people need less and other people need more. Some people do good with like once a week, other people do better with like once a month. For me, it's definitely an everyday thing, because I'm like you, where at 1 or 2 p.m. in the day, if I haven't meditated, I start to recognize, oh, I haven't I haven't placed that important cause in my life that reaps all of these wonderful effects, and I want to reap better things, so I need to sow better things, and meditation is one of the ways that I've found that I can kind of consistently sow something that's very positive on my consciousness and my state of being throughout my day. So I love that. I love that a lot. Cool. So, all right. So, okay. What?
I
Go
really
ahead.
love what you said about if you want to reap better things, you have to sow better things because that is meditation in a nutshell, right? The conscious choice to choose the best things to put into our lives, and they've said this a million different ways. There are a million different teachings, but they say it's not what we put in our mouths that poison us, but what comes out of them that matters. And it's that mindfulness in every action we do. And so yes, I loved what you said there because for me that is the essence of meditation is the conscious choice of choosing better things to sow. Mm,
Yep. I think when people think of
go
awareness,
ahead.
they just
Sorry.
think of like this feeling of when people think of awareness, they think of like this feeling of just peace And yeah, it is that. But awareness is also like being self-aware. Like, what am I doing with all of my actions throughout my day? Because every day I'm sowing all of these different things and I'm going to reap the results of all of those things throughout my life. So, what am I sowing? What kind of karmic chain am I creating in my own life? And meditation helps you have that awareness where you become aware of all of those little actions that you're doing throughout your day. And you start consciously choosing to sow things that are going to create a karmic chain that's going to be beneficial, that's going to create a lot of positive momentum in your life and the people that you serve and the people that you're around. And what better gift can you give to the world than to change yourself and to become aware of your own actions? That's such a beautiful gift that you can give to the world and to yourself too. So I love that a lot. I love that a
Mm.
lot, Core. So, okay, so we talked a little bit over text message about some of the positive aspects that meditation can have on the world over time, but just what do you think that what do you think why do you think it's taken so long for the world to start to kind of adopt meditation on a bigger scale? Because really, I mean, it's been known for a long time, but only in the past 100 years has meditation
Yeah.
really started to become a thing. So why do you think that is?
That's a great question. And I can only really give my personal perspective, which is um, divine providence, right? When it was time, it was there. And we are the ones who are kind of, it's like, okay, have it, go do what you need to do with it. So, yeah, it was there for a very long time, and it was taught in a way that kept it pretty pure and pretty clean in a lot of areas, which is beautiful for people who are, now being able to take that information and give it out because it's useful now. I've had people, I had a gentleman once, an older gentleman, look at me and he said, 500 years ago, I would have revered you, and 200, I would have burned you at the stake. And I looked at him and I said, you probably did, right? And but kind of the ha-ha of it being is, there's this, as there's this natural record keeping, of these nuggets, and they're offered at the right time, at the right place, to the right people. And when that happens, we see these huge evolutions in humanity.
Right.
And I think that's what this is.
I I I agree 100%. And what a good compliment he gave you.
I thought so. I gave him one of these. Mhm.
What an awesome guy. Yeah, so yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think that there's kind of a divine timing thing, and the world is, even though with all the stuff going on in the world that may not be pretty, I do believe the world is headed towards beautiful things. And I think meditation is part of God's plan in making that happen and giving people the tools that they need to help with all the different things, mental health issues, addiction, even just again, figuring out who you are and what your actions can do for yourself and the world around you, and that basic awareness. And I firmly believe that meditation plays a big role in all of those things for the good and for the positive. So,
Yeah. Yes. And it's wonderful for, anyone who has any type of respiratory irregularities throughout life. It's good for our blood pressure. It's good for our states of mind. It's good to connect with people. We often leave that part out of meditation. It's a beautiful way to connect with people. It's non-abrasive and it's inviting. So there's it it's one of those tools that if we're willing to step back together and make something fun with it, we can really just work with each other and see a vision forward and walk towards it. right?
Yep.
Nice and gentle.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, what I want to ask you now, because I talked with you a little bit over text message, but I want to ask you again on a podcast because so that other people can kind of hear some of the insights that we've had. But what
Okay.
what honest effect do you think the meditation will have on the world over time? What are some of the changes do you think we'll see as a result of meditation?
So my super professional answer to this is I'm a firm believer that all self-sabotaging behavior comes from the inability to self-regulate. And I believe that through meditation, we can teach adults how to empower themselves in their own self regulation process. We can teach children how to start self regulating at a very young age. And through the process of that, we can help guide them to empower each other to take accountability through this non abrasive tool of meditation. And if we do that, there's a lot of tribal teachings, there's a lot of teachings in general that say that we are responsible for 4 to 7 generations in each direction. And I genuinely believe if we can figure out how to meditate together in 4 to 7 generations, we will have done our duty.
I
Yeah.
I would not be at all surprised to see a massive change in humanity and even as short as 4 to 7 generations as a result of this. But people, the awareness needs to continue to grow and people need to implement the practice. We're starting to see that the snowball effect kind of happen and my prayer and I trust that because of the divine providence being behind it that we will see more of that we will see more people implementing it and seeing what it can do for them and teaching their kids and and I think that can really turn the world in towards a beautiful direction that I believe that it's headed because like I said of divine providence. So well, cool. I really appreciate your insights today, Core. You are full of knowledge and wisdom. And again, you guys, make sure that you go watch Core's YouTube channel, Black Raven Meditation. Is it meditations or meditation? I'm trying to remember. Is there an S on the
Medi-
end?
medi- no, there's not.
Okay.
There's
All
no
right.
meditations that's in the end. But there are meditations with an S on the channel. So yeah.
Awesome. So what
Yeah.
Okay, so your YouTube channel and your website, those are probably the two big things that you want plugged on this podcast so people can go find you and watch some of your content. So Black Raven Meditation on YouTube, and it's just blackravenmeditation.com, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Cool. And what's one last kind of piece of wisdom that you want to offer the world today?
Don't give up. It's a beautiful and it's a safe world. And just don't give up. All the wisdom I have today.
No, I love that. That is really good advice and something that a lot of times people need to hear, including myself, because it's easy to to feel like, oh man, or to get discouraged and feel like you got a lot on your plate or wonder why you're not getting. Yeah, it's just easy to feel discouraged sometimes in life, and I think God wants us to feel courageous and to feel hope and to trust that there's good things to come. So, I love that advice a lot, Core. So you're awesome. This was a brilliant podcast. This is really good. I'm excited to share this with the world. I hope everybody learned a lot listening to this podcast today. And, I think that a lot of people are going to appreciate some of the stuff we talked about and kind of uh, learn from today's podcast. So thank you, Core. thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Dylan.
And you
Yes, I
guys,
appreciate you.
yeah, I appreciate you too. And you guys, if you're listening to this podcast or watching it and you haven't started meditation, I invite you guys go out, find a tree somewhere and sit under it, especially if there's a stream next to it and some birds, or even inside in your room or like in your bed or on a chair or wherever, and just close your eyes or keep them open and just try 2 minutes of meditation, like Core said, and maybe try it again the next day. And I promise you guys, if you keep with it, you're going to see some benefits. And, don't go seeking the benefits like we talked about, but they will happen. And, and yeah, so I invite you guys to go try meditation if you're listening to this or watching this podcast. So, yeah, thank you again, Core. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day while you're on your little adventure traveling right now to do this podcast. Uh, you did a great job, shared some really awesome insights, and thank you guys for taking your time to listen to today's podcast. And for all the listeners, make sure again you go follow Core on YouTube, and that's Black Raven Meditation on YouTube, and she's got a lot of really good videos there. So thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, peace be unto you.